We're going to do something a little bit different again today, but then again, what's new? Even though I'm a new YouTuber, a newtuber if you will, I think it's really important to not gatekeep, and I've got a few tricks up my sleeve with regards to Premiere Pro, which I know not everybody has, but I've got a few tricks that if you do have it and you don't know about them, are going to save you an absolute ton of time. So this is my current process for editing my YouTube videos. Please share any tips and tricks that you have from editing your own videos, or just because you're seeing a button that I have not seen, just share them down below please, I beg of you. I find myself looking at other people's videos all the time and going, how did they do that? How long does it take them? Back in the early days of this channel, I did not enjoy editing at all. It was one of the worst things because I was doing it all manually. Yes, it was in Adobe, but I didn't know half of the things I know now. I didn't even know how to use the program properly, so I'm maybe 1/10 into how to properly use it, but that's the easy stuff. But these tips and tricks have seriously helped me. They've saved so much time. They make me feel less of a hurdle when it comes to editing. So if you don't know about these, you're welcome. Before we dive into the step-by-step, let's do a whistle-stop tour of all the hardware and software that I'm currently using. You are watching me through an iPhone 13 Pro. Back in the day, a couple of years ago, I thought I was the pinnacle of snazziness because I went for the top-of-the-range model. First time ever, by the way. And I paid it in installments, that I was in a full-time position, quite a fancy job, and it's the first time I got a top-of-the-range thing, and now, because it's Apple and 2 years later, it's nothing to write home about, and I don't normally talk about it with my mother because she's like, you seriously spent that much on a phone? It's blue in case you're interested. That is my camera. We're a very new, very small channel. At some point in the future, I hope that we'll grow, but currently this is a passion project. So I don't have loads of money to just chuck at equipment. So the first upgrade that I did was to get an external microphone. It is a Joby or Jobby, I call it Jobby because it does the job. It's like a bullet shape, and apparently that's the best setup for a microphone because it means that your voice just goes straight down and then there's less distractions that come in. And finally, the main software that I'm using is Adobe, so Premiere Pro for the video editing, Audition sometimes for the audio editing. I'm playing around with how I do that, and also Photoshop sometimes for thumbnails. Francis is doing the thumbnails more now, but if it's me, I just whack him into Canva, which a lot of people use, by the way. It is very easy. It's that thing of, do you use something more technical just for the sake of it, or do you do it quick and easy? But if you have Canva, you kind of need a subscription to get access to all of the assets. You can do it without, but it's a bit more annoying, so you have to sift through it. We're playing around with it, nothing's set in stone. We're trying to get better every time, but that's our current setup, if you will. When I screen record, I'm just doing it in QuickTime. Also, top tip, if you're on Apple and you've got an iPhone and a Mac or a MacBook, if you're trying to see how you look, make sure your camera setup is right, you can go into QuickTime on your computer and change your camera to your iPhone so you don't have to see the screen. So currently I'm looking at the back camera, it's not the front, because it's a higher quality. This specific setup is not going to be for everyone starting out because Adobe is expensive. If we didn't have it already, I would not be going out of my way to get it. It's also buggy, which is so annoying if you're paying that much for it. I think a lot of people who have Macs and all that sort of setup use iMovie. I don't think I would go to iMovie because it feels like a downgrade in skill set. We've already got Adobe and I've spent so much time on it. It would be really frustrating to start again with something new. Just in case, we're going to start at the very beginning. I have opened Premiere and that's all I've done. I'm just going to go to New Project. On this next screen, I've gone ahead and named my project and chosen its location. If this is your first time opening Premiere, you're not going to see what I see. It's a different workspace, effectively. If I click this button up here, these are all the workspace options that you've got, and what you want to do is go to your Essentials workspace. Again, it might look slightly different to mine depending on what windows you have open, so just to help you out, these are the ones that I have open, but they're in different parts of the screen, so don't try to, it sounds awful, don't try to copy mine. Don't try to exactly copy mine. You've effectively got different widgets with different windows open in each of the widgets. So I've imported some media and you'll notice straight away that they're in folders. I think they're called bins in Premiere itself, but effectively what I've done is gone into my Finder and grabbed a folder and just dragged it in. You can do this a couple of ways, but it's quite easy for me to do that rather than finding it all over again, because I'm normally working in Finder. The first thing I want to show you is these 3 are the recordings from my phone, and if I fast forward a second, I've just double clicked on this one, the lighting is awful. The reason for that is that iPhones record in HDR, and that doesn't translate well across something that is non-Apple, so Adobe isn't Apple. You can deal with this a couple of ways. You can turn off the HDR setting on your phone. I haven't decided to do that because I like the way it's set up on my phone, and I don't know, I didn't really want to change it. So what you can do is you can change the way that Adobe is recognizing the input, because that's where the issue is. And the way that you do that is in the Lumetri color window, and it comes up with edit and settings. And what you want to do with your clip selected is go to settings and then override color media space in your source clip, and you're going to choose Rec 2020, and straight away that color looks so much better. And that's done that with all of these clips. The first thing I want to do is to sync everything I've got. So I'm going to drag my master file, which is the audio, onto the timeline, and then you'll see that these are quite big. I have to scroll up and scroll down to see everything. So if I go over to the right here and drag these out, then they'll make everything smaller. So let's just do that quickly. And then what I want to do is drag this onto the timeline, and I want everything to manually sync for me. So I'm going to drag every single video clip in separately, and I need to add another track quickly from my audio. So I'm going to go over here, right click and add track. Now I've got everything looking like a waterfall. If I Command A and select everything and right click, I can synchronize. That would be grayed out if I didn't have everything on a different track. And I want to synchronize them to audio track channel 1. You can see it's processing 4 items. It's taking a little bit of time, but a lot faster than me doing it manually. It's probably taking longer because I'm taking up RAM screen recording. Just from a quick glance, those are looking pretty good. Next up, because I don't need these anymore, I'm going to delete them. I could also move these to be on the same line, and the shortcut for that is Option and down if you're on a Mac. Next up, I need to add in my screen recording. Now there is supposed to be a setting whereby you select your clips, right click in your project and create a multi-camera source sequence, but for the life of me I could not make that work. It did it by timecode, and I couldn't make it work. So if you know how to do it, please tell me, because I've got QuickTime and everything should have a timestamp. I tried to do it manually as well with the time codes. That didn't work either. I just had to do it manually within Premiere, and it was so frustrating. So for the purposes of transparency, I would just drag it on and then try to manually line it up. What I would suggest in retrospect is if you start your screen recording before you start your Audition, because that's the other component of this I don't think I've mentioned, I'm recording it all on Adobe Audition in the background. You can see the sound waves, especially when you've got less on there, so that's me recording for quite a while. But if you start your Audition, then you start your QuickTime screen recording, and then you do your clap test, because you've got the sound waves on your phone or recording device, your computer, and even though your QuickTime is probably soundless, you've got that wave that you can see, then you will have an easy time lining it up manually. I'm not going to go through all of the effects that I use, because this is more of an overview of the process. Let me know if that's something that you'd be interested in. It wouldn't be a technical one, as you've probably seen. I am a lay person doing editing. These are a few tips that I've picked up along the way of bashing my head against the wall. Without going into the minutiae of how I edit, the biggest win that Adobe has over a lot of other platforms, and I've not looked into this in too much detail, so hopefully your video editing platform has this as well, but it has transcription services and text-based editing, and that is so freaking powerful. There is a panel here, there's a window that I've got open that is text. Love it so much, and that shows you how old I am apparently, because how did younger people anyway? This small window is not giving you really an overview of how powerful this is. Aside from the fact that you don't have to manually write subtitles, which I don't think most people do, I like to edit this, and there's quite a lot of edits because of my accent, because I mumble words and stuff. There's a lot of edits, but I like to do that because it means that my subtitles are pretty good at the end of the day. And if you've got subtitles turned on, you actually know what I'm on about when I'm mumbling under my breath. But this just makes you go, okay, fantastic, you've done subtitles for me. No. If I select all of this, that is where I have said those words in the clip, and I could just delete it, and it's done it for me. I can filter for pauses and delete all of them. And, oh wow, I did that quickly. There are settings within this as well to specify how long your pause is, how quickly it should go back into it afterwards. But look at that. That took seconds, okay? Seconds where without it, you would be going through looking at the waveforms manually. It's amazing. I'm not saying that you should just use that to delete all the pauses. I don't think you should. Especially, I sometimes leave some in for dramatic effect. I start from the bottom because when I do multiple takes, the last one is normally the one that I'm happiest with. Ideally, it would say, hey, there's a duplication here. Do you want me to just keep the last one? And I would go, yes, please. That would be even better. But it's so powerful. This window, if you're not used to working and switching between workspaces, there is a text-based editing workspace that automatically rearranges this whole thing so that you can just focus on text. And those are really the two workspaces I use. It's just Essentials and Text. So back up to Workspaces, and then we're going to go Text-based editing. I have moved this around a bit so that this panel is massive. And yeah, it's a lot of work to go through, but it's a lot easier than manually editing. After I've gone through and edited everything to my liking, I also make sure anything that I'm saying matches up with what it thinks I'm saying. I then create captions from that transcript, because that's a polished transcript. So go to the Captions tab and then create captions from transcript. And it's just the default settings here. You can just about see here, it's created a new track from those captions. I'm just going to hop back to the Essentials workspace. You don't have to do anything with this, but if you notice as I'm scrolling through here, automatically it shows you a video with the captions burnt on, and that's probably not what you want, but it's not something that is irreversible. The last thing I do is select a backing track from YouTube audio library. I'd love to upgrade to Epidemic Sounds, but just don't have the budget. So here is my track, and you will notice that my track is piddly. If you highlight the ripple tool and go to Remix tool, you can select your audio track and drag it out to the extent of your video. And it takes a little bit of time to do it, but again, it's a lot faster than you going copy, paste, 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 paste. Okay, there we go. It isn't exact, but what you can do is drag it to slightly after the end of your speaking, and then it may line up better. Especially if there's a pause at the end of the audio track here, that's it fading out. You may not care so much about it fading off gradually and then having a lovely bit of silence at the end. You don't care about that probably. So you can just delete that bit at the end. There's a few tricks, but you've only got one thing to fiddle around with at the end of the day instead of 20. I jump back to selection tool pretty quickly because that's all I use the remix tool for. And then I make sure that the sound of the backing track is not overwhelming my speaking by just moving the level around. Normally it does the presets pretty well, so my dialogue's my dialogue, and then if I click on this is music, and then I just lower it from here so that it's more reasonable instead of audio gain and playing around that way. Sometimes at this point I use Audition, and that depends on how good the quality of the audio is. I did play around with some lavalier mics for a while, but I found that my hair just kept brushing against them and it was really annoying. It wasn't as good of quality of speech as I wanted. I did just get some cheap ones, so it's probably a combination of that and user error, but I found that this microphone is the best overall at keeping excess noise out. I don't have to do too much to the audio to make it sound decent. My biggest issue currently is I don't do a dry run of the videos after I've edited them to make sure they're okay for export. Exporting them can cause more issues, so I get the odd glitch. Apparently it's a 4K glitch from Adobe, which is really annoying, but that would be a point at which I could improve because I should be able to pick up little things like that. If you have something so bad in your original clip that you can't fix by playing around with the reduced noise settings, all you can do in your original clip is right click it and edit in Adobe Audition. The reason you do it in your original clip and not in the one on the timeline is that you've made all the edits, and the reason that you've spotted this is because you've gone through and made all the edits so that it's in your final piece. You don't want to go in and fix a fan noise in a bit of audio that you never use. You want to go in and specifically fix items that would make it your final cut. And just a point on this, I heard that fan noise in the 50 States video. Nobody else did, apparently. You're the person creating it, you're probably noticing more than most people would. And you can't be perfect with these anyway. This is a creative project and people will do it differently. There's also quite a lot of forgiveness in audio and even glitchy pictures. The last couple of videos that I've posted have got a definite glitch in them because of the Adobe 4K export issue. Now, most of the time when there's a glitch in the picture, you go, oh, my internet's just jumped. Or you don't even notice it because you're doing something else. So give yourself a bit of slack, it doesn't have to be perfect. You need to think about how much time you would put into fixing it versus what the overall impact is. And the same goes for subtitles really. So I do edit the subtitles because it's an accessibility thing. I don't want people to not be able to watch my videos, not from a vanity perspective. It just feels really unfair that I'm excluding people by being a bit lazy when I'm using it myself as well. It's like a win-win. It's a little bit pedantic when I go in and correct every word, but I use subtitles. it's because I mumble and other people mumble, or they use a word that you don't recognize in a different way or something. It's just a nice thing to have. But in terms of payoff, it's not really worth my time. I've just chosen to do it as a quality thing. Okay, I've got my audio sorted out, I've got my backing track sorted out, I've got everything synced up, and I've edited it with the text-based editing. The final thing I would do is get my end screen in, just plop it as a picture. If I drag this onto the timeline, it is absolutely piddly. Quite a good tip that someone gave me, I forget who, sorry, was if you set all of your pictures to 1 second, then they won't overwrite anything else if you drag them into the timeline. So I did that, I changed my settings for that. But it does mean, for the most part, that I'm having to resize this every single time because like this doesn't have any pictures in it. But hey ho. So I've right clicked, I'm just going to go to speed/duration. Now a YouTube end screen is 20 seconds. I went through a bit of a phase of recording a specific length end screen, so I had 20 seconds. And that was inspired by Little Simsy, just, you know, having a little bit of a natter about whatever it was or whatever was on my mind. That's quite a nice thing. And it has the added benefit of, if you've got people who are watching your video, they will normally listen to the very end of it. If you've got something, just a little soundbite there that interests them. But it's just nice. But I haven't been doing that the last couple of times because the videos have taken too much out of me. I don't know what I'm going to do this time. We'll see. So if I do that, I normally put a couple of points down on a piece of paper and just record myself doing that straight into my phone. And it's normally longer than 20 seconds. If I and ah, then I have to go back and forth and back and forth. So if I've got the couple of points, I know roughly how long it takes me to say it. The last massive tip I have for you is in the export settings. There are 2 things that make my life just easier. So if I go to export here, you may have noticed at this point I haven't said anything about the normalization of loudness. YouTube has settings that it won't let you upload videos that are too loud or I think too quiet. I think normally with too quiet they don't really care, but if it's too loud and it will hurt people's eardrums, then they adjust it. And I think if it's too quiet they adjust it upwards, but I haven't said anything about that because there is one tweak in effects that you can just do it at a click of a button. As long as it sounds fine to you, you can just tick that box, no issue. So if you go to loudness normalization and go to ITU BS.1770-3, your target loudness is -14 LUFs, your tolerance is 0, and your max true peak is -1. That's going to sort all that out for you. If you have absolutely no idea what I'm on about and you haven't found yourself in that YouTube rabbit hole yet, I'm going to show you. If you go into any YouTube video and right click and go stats for nerds, you will see this volume/normalized section. The content loudness is -2.2 decibels. On my most recent video, the normalized volume is only -0.8 decibels, so that's closer to 0. And all I did to achieve that was just select that setting. Very, very low work from me, didn't have to play around with settings, audio gain, nothing. If you've put time and effort into that captions file, then the other thing that you need to do is go to captions. You will see it automatically populates with burn captions into video. You do not want that. You want create sidecar file, and then that's it. But you don't want to be editing those 2 sections every time, so you can create a preset. So you can save the custom preset that you've just done as something like this, with a bit of a notice to what it is. And then you don't have to think about it, you just have to make sure that your preset is right, and you're good to go. You just export it, leave it, and then go recover from all the effort that you put into doing your video. 2 more things here, and then we're going to quickly go into how to upload subtitles into YouTube, because it isn't as easy as it should be. So I don't publish straight to YouTube because it just feels like it could fall over. I don't know if other people have practiced doing this, if they've got any top tips, but I much prefer exporting it, just having the ability to look through, though I don't look through the final file. I should look through it before I export it and then look through the final result, but I don't do that because by this point I'm sick of me. So that's partly a control issue and partly because it's fallen over a couple of times before. But I just wanted to talk about 4K or not 4K. If you've gone through Ali Abdaal's videos on how to do YouTube videos, he says if you've got the ability to do 4K, then do it, you might as well. And I did that, and I've done it for the last few videos, and maybe it looks better. I'm only watching YouTube videos on my phone and my computer, so it's not a big deal for me. I know if people have a massive 4K TV, it will matter more. It will blow up my face and the other things that I'm looking at to more than it is naturally. So I guess it makes sense that way. But when you're working with 4K, your files are so much bigger than if you're working with your standard HD. That may not matter for a big YouTuber like Ali, but one of the problems I had really early on was how to store the videos that I'm making. If you're shooting in 4D, you've got a load of excess takes because you and ah, or you're shooting out and about and you've got just extra footage. It takes up so much space. I had to buy a 1TB external hard drive because my computer couldn't handle it. And full disclosure, I did not get maximum space on my Mac because it was expensive enough. I just went, you know what do I need to just function? I wasn't thinking about doing videos, especially not in 4K, and I just couldn't cope with it. I started using OneDrive and there was a whole thing about uploading and upload speeds, especially because we're on the road. But it's something that you need to bear in mind because not only is it a big pile of things to sit on, but when you're working with it, depending on how powerful your computer is, it is really slow. It takes extra seconds and all those extra seconds add up. And then the other thing is it takes a while to export and another while to upload and another while to start processing. It's really long, and for beginner YouTubers like you and me, I would say it's probably not worth it. Now, I've started doing it. I don't know that I'll continue. It's one of those things that's really hard to backtrack on because you go, oh, but I've reached a certain level of quality. But realistically, I wouldn't recommend it. I think unless you're making money from it, the quality is not that bad. A lot of people, again, like me, are just watching it on their computer or on their phone, and HD is good enough. It downgrades if you don't have good internet speeds anyway, so why would we spend all this time and effort on something instead of churning out new videos? I think that's probably where I stand on it, but again, I changed my settings on my phone to automatically do it in 4D, so I'm like, oh, but I don't want to undo it because it's a step backwards. The last thing we're going to do is show you how to freaking upload those subtitle files. So I'm going to upload a test video, and then in the background there's two settings really that you need. First up, you need to go down to the more settings on the very first page. You can't just type on this, you have to physically scroll down to your language. And you can't do a setting either from my understanding. So you just want that video language as your language. You don't have to put a caption certification, that's more if you've aired on TV. And then you're going to go to next, and then you're going to add subtitles, and then you're going to upload your file here with timing. So you upload your SRT file, easy as pie if you know where to look. I also like to add an end screen and import it from a video. But that's that. That is a quick overview of the equipment I'm using and the programs and the process that I'm using to upload my videos. I like to think it's on the advanced side, but I'm sure it's not. I hope you found this useful. Please let me know if there's anything that I could be doing more easily. I think the key is if you've got it set up right, then you need to do minimal things to it in order for it to flow really well together. I hope you have an amazing week. I am playing with the idea of doing like 2 videos a week and then some shorts, but let's face it, it's taking me a whole week to do a video and I'm only doing it on the last day anyway, so mentally I don't know I'm quite prepared for that. But if I drop another video this week, that's why. See you next time. What do you mean the lighting levels were inconsistent and fading throughout the video because the sun was setting? I think you'll find I'm a consummate professional and definitely didn't leave this to the last minute. I'm trying to space out the British person stereotype videos. I've got a couple lined up, but I can't do those forever. I'm sorry.